Hey everyone, welcome back to another Godzilla Battleline video, and today I'm coming at you with a highly requested deck that utilizes every single Godzilla piece in the game. Now, this deck was an effort done by myself and Stagathy over Discord, so I can't take 100% credit for this deck, although the two of us combined used our Mega Mind status and threw this baby together. So, that being said, something I want to touch on, this deck does not feature Godzilla 21. Why is that? Well, he's a little expensive, so we couldn't really find a good home for him in this deck. I suppose if you wanted to take out Dimension Tide or the King Caesar on the bottom version of the deck, you could and throw him in, but it's really going to raise your deck cost. Also, this video is going to go up on January 6th, 2022. Now, after January, Godzilla 21 and Kong will not be available, so new players watching this in like February, March, or April, if you see this video, you can still use both decks on the screen to their fullest extent without having to worry about swapping out Godzilla 21 for something. Now, veteran players, if you wanted to swap in Godzilla 21, again, that's your call on what you swap it out with in this deck, but for newer players who don't have this unit, this should be fine in the long run. So, here's a quick rundown if you just wanted a quick rundown on how this deck works, and then I'll go into an extended breakdown of all the characters. So, version 1 I'm going to go over, since that's what's in the video, and version 2 is just honorable mention stuff if you wanted to try to make Kiryu work. So, version 1, Godzilla 89, great leader, easy to level up, really great buff. Ultima and Terrestrius, that's your main damage dealer. Godzilla 1954, great tank, great damage dealer, can transform into Burning and Kiryu based on the way this deck is set up. Biollante, very cheap AoE that's also very strong, especially in water. Kamakuris for the 2 energy ones, obviously great body blocker to help your evolution units and just get some units on the board. Manila, best stun in the game, long range stun, 2 cost, amazing unit. Batra, Imago, and Batra Larva both will buff your team, and then also Imago will benefit from the G89 buff. And then Dimension Tide to pull units away from your team or towards your team in the case of Biollante or Burning Godzilla, because you want to hit that detonation. So, with that being said, thanks for watching if you just wanted that quick one, but now let's go into the extended breakdown. So, Godzilla 89 as your leader. Godzilla 89 is a 3-star leader who's generally accepted to be one of the better leaders in the game. He's easy to level up because he's a 3-star, and he has very high health. He's extremely tanky for a leader. He's extremely tanky for a unit. So he also gives a damage boost to all units that are 5 cost energy or more for 50% damage boost. I don't remember exactly how long it lasts. I think it's like 15 seconds or something. It was just on the screen and I wasn't looking at it and I don't remember. But it's like 15-second damage boost. So 50% damage is really strong, and that's going to help give a damage boost to Godzilla Ultima. It's going to boost Godzilla 1954, and it is going to boost Batra Imago. It is not going to boost your Kiryu or your Burning Godzilla, because as the game reads them, when Godzilla 1954 transforms into them, they'll be 2 costs less. So Kiryu will be 4 cost, Burning Godzilla will be 3 cost. Also, G89 is the leader because 1, he's a great leader, but 2, he's a little too expensive to also include into this deck. You're better off having 1954 transform into him like I have in the version 2 deck below. So, Ultima. You're going to want to put Ultima in this deck and not let it be up to G54's transformation, because you're going to have to put G54 down and then Terrestrius and then make Terrestrius into Ultima, and then if Ultima dies, you have to put G54 down. It's not worth it. Ultima is probably one of the best single target damage dealers in the game, and as long as you can support him with units to keep him protected, he's going to run through your opponents. You can see on the screen, not right now, but eventually he'll 1v1 a King Ghidorah, he will come up against a Hedorah and nuke it. He can pretty much nuke most units before they even get close, and especially in a fixed battle like that's on the screen, that's something that you're going to want, right? And especially in the arena, a lot of people might have him at a higher level. They've been playing a long time. He was the first unit added to the game post-launch. Ultima is a very good pick for your deck just for damage dealer. Now, the only L that I received last night while testing this deck was when Ultima wasn't evolved. If I have a Terrestrius the whole match, I lost, right? So he's your main damage dealer. A lot of the other units are really low cost monsters. He's high cost, he's high damage, he's long range. He's what you want. You want to evolve him. So the fight right there in the video is about to end, and you're about to see that I use Godzilla 1954 to get Terrestrius to evolve. Now that's a good segue into 1954. He has very high health and very high damage. He's a 7 cost, so he's a bit expensive, but he can transform into the other Godzillas for a lower cost, which is huge. You'll see in the video as time goes on that 1954 eats up a ton of hits. He can eat up Caesars, he can eat up Super X's, and pretty much everything, and he's just an all-around really solid tank. I think G89 might be a better tank than him, but I was honestly pleasantly surprised and almost shocked at how well he was eating up damage, and same were the users in my Discord who I was fighting, and they're like, I was not expecting 1954 to go as hard as he did, because 1954 can also hit air units. So while G89 is a great tank, 1954 can also hit the air units as well. So you can take a look at this yourself. Kills the Caesar, kills the Kamacuras right there, and then the Super X is putting all these hits into him, but it's barely going down, and I get the ultimate to evolve. So now I have a great damage dealer, and I'm about to get a Kiryu on the field for 4 cost. Next is Biollante. So Biollante is a great unit to have in your deck, right? If you're not using her as a leader, I recommend you use her as a unit. She does amazing damage. She has great AoE. She's very cheap. She's almost a guaranteed evolution if your opponent isn't going out of their way to stop them, and even then they might not stop her. So putting Biollante down in the field early game, great, and you get the evolution, great. So she's really good AoE for this deck. Obviously, we're not using King Ghidorah in this deck. King Ghidorah is probably the king of AoE at the moment, but very expensive unit, not a Godzilla, and that would just crank up the price of this deck and not fit with the aesthetic. So we are, well, I mean, Batra's not really part of the aesthetic, but that's not the point. So we're using her because she's cheap, she's very powerful, and in water she's exceptionally strong. If you wanted to swap Hedorah in for her, you could. If you're bringing this deck into ranked and your Hedorah is a higher level, go for that. But if you are doing a fixed battle like this, Biollante is a very, very good card to use, and I would just even use that Biollante in general in arena. But if you have a low Biollante, like I said, you can use Hedorah if you want to substitute. Next is the Kamacuras and Manila. I really don't think I need to explain these two too much. They're pretty staple in most decks. Kamacuras is very good for body blocking like King Caesars or distracting your opponents, and Manila has the best stun in the game, and he has very long range and he's very cheap, so you can use him just in great effect. He's in a lot of top tier decks. Next is Batra and Batra Imago. Regular Batra and Batra Imago will buff your whole team for like 8 seconds or something like that, or 15 seconds or something like that, for like 150%, right? That is a huge damage boost, especially in a big team fight. I think I get that boost off in one of the team fights in this video at one point. I don't really remember, but you can see, you notice the damage boost. It's crazy. They completely power up your team, and that on top of an Ultima or a 54 or a Biollante is crazy high damage. And then also the Imago form will benefit from the G89 buff. And overall, Batra is a staple of the meta at the moment, so we threw her in here, or him in here, because he's just going to absolutely elevate your team to the next level when you're not using the G89 buff. Next up is the Dimension Tide. So the Dimension Tide is the flex pick for this deck. You notice in the Kiryu deck, we don't use Dimension Tide, we have King Caesar, but flex pick, Dimension Tide, you can use this to bring pre-evolution units to you. So if someone has a Terrestrius, you don't want them to evolve it, you can bring it towards you. You can send units away. Like I believe in this game, I pulled away some units and it helped me evolve or help save my team and let me push up some. Or you can drag it towards your units, right? Bringing units into Biollante's reach is very powerful, especially if your Biollante is in water. She's going to get a 180% boost in water. So bringing units closer to her in that situation would be very beneficial. You also can bring units closer together into Burning Godzilla's explosion. Now, Burning Godzilla, when you get him from 1954, is going to be 3 cost, right? His explosion range isn't very far, which is a big downfall of him. But if you use Dimension Tide to drag your enemy into that explosion in a fixed battle, you're going to absolutely wreck them. And even in ranked, if you have like a level 3 or 4 Burning Godzilla, you'll still do a significant amount of damage. So that's good to know, and that's good to see. Also, with the Dimension Tide, you can bring, you know, all the units closer together and whatnot, or damage units. I don't need to explain more like how the basics of Dimension Tide works, but I used it in this deck to bring people towards Biollante and towards Burning Godzilla. So, with that breakdown out of the way, there are some faults of this deck. Number one being, if you do not get Terrestrius to evolve into Ultima, you're down your damage, right? You are not going to be able to fill that role with damage. 1954 and Biollante are very strong, but they can be easily overwhelmed. And like being overwhelmed, this deck is very susceptible to flying units. Biollante and Kamacuras can't hit flying units. Batra, Manila, Ultima, and 1954 can, but I noticed in the PvP game that I lost, the I was overwhelmed by Super X and Desghidorah, and this was in a fixed battle, and because Desghidorah can go through multiple units with the way his fire works, that proved very not kosher for this deck, right? So you just gotta be aware. King Caesar, or not King Caesar, but King Ghidorah, especially with the AoE, they're very prevalent in the meta right now. You gotta be aware of that. And there's 3 evolution units in this deck. King Caesars are gonna be used to take down Terrestrius immediately if he's not protected, and Batra if not protected, and Biollante is pretty easy to evolve, so I'm not really worried about that, but if you're not paying attention, your Biollante could go down. Next up is Kiryu as well. Kiryu for 4 cost is amazing in this deck. I was dropping Kiryu left and right in this match. At level 20, he was doing so much work. If you have a high-powered Kiryu, then this is going to slap for you, because at 4 cost Kiryu was absolutely shredding the battlefield, and you can see it right now. Look at all the damage between Kiryu and Ultima against the leader. And imagine this with the Batra buff or with the 89 buff, which I couldn't use at the moment. And honestly, the biggest caveat of this deck, the biggest L that you could receive, is if your G54 is low and your other Godzillas aren't low. If your G54 is level 1 or level 2, might not be too great. Mine's level 3, and I'm considering taking this into the arena at the lower ranks, maybe not in the top 100, but I'm floating around the top 200, 300 right now, so maybe that could be something I can work with. But, you know, the way Godzilla 1954 works is it brings out the Godzillas from your deck at the level they are, and if you don't have them, like if I don't have Burning Godzilla, it'll bring Burning Godzilla out at level 1. So if you have a level 1 Burning Godzilla or no Burning Godzilla, you're not going to be doing a lot of damage. You don't have Kiryu, you're getting a level 1 Kiryu. But if you have a high level Kiryu and a high level Burning, this deck is extremely powerful. So with this deck, I found it very powerful, and if played right, can be very destructive. Although the one, I went through all these L's before, but this deck is not just a deck that you need to evolve 8 characters, right? You don't need to upgrade 8 characters to run this deck successfully. You essentially have to upgrade 10 characters, right? Not only do you need to do Godzilla 89 and Terrestrius and 1954, but you also have to have Kiryu and Burning Godzilla leveled up so that in ranked, you can take this in and be effective. This deck slapped in the fixed battles because every unit ended up being level 20. Burning Godzilla and Kiryu included all became level 20. But in the arena, if you want to take this in competitively, you're going to have to work on a minimum of 10 units. And we don't even know if 1954 will keep getting more incarnations of Godzilla attached to him, so that would be even, 11, 12, 13 units later down the line. And the more units that are added, the more unreliable the evolutions are going to be. But at the moment, in January 2022, you can basically fix his evolutions to only be Kiryu and Burning Godzilla, which is super powerful. So we're going to have to see who gets added in the future, and maybe we'll upgrade this deck down the line. So that's what I have to say about Godzilla Squad, or Goji Squad, as you can see on the screen. I had so much fun playing with this deck, and I thought it was an absolute banger across the board, and it surprised my Discord. The wins that I was getting, everyone was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that play, or I wasn't expecting that actually to work, and stuff like that. So this was catching people by surprise big time. So if you're fixing battles with your friends, throw this deck together and slap them around, because they're not going to see it coming. Honorable mention, the Kiryu deck on the bottom. This is just if you want to run Kiryu as the leader. You've had a lot of time to look over it. I'm not really going to discuss it too much, but basically, you take Kiryu, make it your leader. If you want to make use of the ACZ, the Absolute Zero Cannon for the 90% damage, then you could, I don't know, run Ultima or something to their leader and take them down. You can flex pick this, so he goes there, so 1954 can become G89, who's really good as a cheap tank, but not seeing a lot of play right now due to all the flyers in the meta and all the buffs going around, and he can't hit air, so he's really dropping out of favor. And then G54 will also become Burning, which is good, but now that you don't have Dimension Tide, possibly hard to bring people into his explosion. I put here King Caesar in the flex pick instead of Dimension Tide, but honestly, if you're using a Kiryu leader, you could use Missiles, Trains, or Mogera, because once you hit your opponent with his cannon, you just want to take down that last bit of health as fast as possible. So having a unit to just step over there and snipe him down and take him down, chip him down, whatever, could be beneficial. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed these 2 decks, and let me know if you're using them and if they're effective at all. If you want to do any kind of testing with me or have a reliable friend match or fixed battles, join my Discord. We have a role for PvP. Grab that role at PvP in the PvP channel, and someone will come to you with a battle. Or if you want to be part of my testing like Gigan was, he answered the call to my PvP, and big shout out to everyone else that answered my call in the PvP channel for testing. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deck and this video, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.